one of the reasons we're here is because somebody has been indicted in 4 different locales on 4 different sets of concerns with, I think, 81, 91 actual counts, and has been found guilty in 2 civil proceedings, one involving sexual behavior and one on actual corporate fraudulent activity. And we don't want to talk about any of that. We want to speculate about discredited testimony from discredited witnesses like Rudy Giuliani, whom we're afraid to subpoena. That's what this is all about. Distract, deflect, dissemble. Hold on to those 2 words, distract and deflect, because I think this hearing's all about, look over here, not over there. So, Professor Gerhardt, I've heard concern about branding. So, shouldn't we be concerned about all those Biden towers all over the world where foreign partnerships were formed and influence was used here in the United States? I've seen these towers in Indonesia, in the Philippines, in Turkey. I even saw one in Chicago. Shouldn't that be a source of concern of this committee in terms of influence, both foreign and domestic, when President Biden became president?
If there were such things as Biden buildings.
Well, was there anyone who did have them?
I think we all know who had.
Well, could you tell us? Because,
Well,
just give me the name, Professor
I think if
Gerhardt.
we're talking about Mr. Trump.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So when President Biden appointed his son to manage U.S. foreign policy both in the Persian Gulf and the Middle East peace, by the way, his son who couldn't qualify for getting a security clearance, but President Biden apparently granted it to Hunter anyhow, and then after leaving the White House, getting a $2 billion deal, because we're told by Mr. Dubinsky, follow the money, especially foreign money. Shouldn't that be of concern to us that maybe a sweetheart deal occurred with the blessing of the president with foreign money, and shouldn't we look into Hunter Biden for that, given the fact that he handled Middle East peace in the White House?
It should have been a concern with President Trump and his son-in-law.
Oh, Trump, I got that wrong again. I'm sorry. Well, let's see. I'm looking at. I heard again. I think it was Professor Turley talking about because he's not prejudging, of course, but he's just suggesting that maybe we want to look into criminal activity like obstruction, fraud, and abuse of power. So let's take fraud. So shouldn't we be concerned that a New York judge just found President Biden's organization committed fraud every year for the last 10 or 15 years, and that under the Martin Law in New York, that Biden organization is now subject to dismemberment and dismantlement because of the fraudulent activity? Shouldn't that be of concern to us?
That should be of concern with respect to Mr. Trump.
Mr. Trump again. And in this case, we're not speculating. A judge actually made that ruling?
Yes, sir.
Should we be concerned about the personal? I mean, while we're at it, since we're loading on, shouldn't we be concerned about the personal behavior of a president? For example, President Trump or President Biden being found guilty of sexual assault and defamation associated with that activity, again in a civil court, in this case in New York?
We should be concerned as it relates to Mr. Trump, yes.
With Mr. Trump again. This isn't about our need to defend Joe Biden. This is about their need to make sure we get off topic, that we no longer talk about the pending criminal trials of the former President of the United States. And if anything's worthy of examination, that is, not this. I yield back.